Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we are outside in my backyard and we're going to get ready to take some of our compost and mix it with some materials and make it ready to use in pots and in the yard. So come along and I'll show you how it's done. Alright, so here we are. I've got my big 55-gallon Rubbermaid container that has my castings in it that I've been slowly adding into here. You can tell if you look in here, it's broken up pretty well. I don't have gloves today, I've just got my shovel here. It's a little moist, still some worms in there, got a bee coming around. So it looks pretty good. Good consistency. As you can see, there are still, I'll pull one out for you, some worms in here. It's impossible to get them all out. You can't do it. I've tried tons of times, you just can't get them out. So, but this is ready to go and be mixed up. Now you can't use this stuff really directly, I've found. It just, what happens, it turns into those big clumps and it just dries out. So what you need to do is you need to mix it. So I have some old potting soil here, which I'm going to dump in. This is from a whole bunch of pots at my house. That looks like a good amount. By the way, this is one of my standard 10-gallon totes, so I had about 10 gallons of that. Now we're going to just sort of mix this up here. So you're going to want to mix it. I'm doing this outside so I don't make a mess in the house. Actually, some roots in here. Let me get rid of those. Otherwise, those fill in from the pot. And then I'm also going to add something else here too. And you can tell this has some of those white pellets in it, which is perfectly fine. This is a potting soil that I probably had in. Actually, here we go. Here's one of those big clumps I was telling you about. This is what happens to your compost if you let it sit too long, even in the yard, where it becomes really firm like this, and you can't break it apart. So I'm going to throw that to the side for now. I'm going to keep mixing this up a little bit. And then there's one other thing I was going to throw in here, because it's really good for your yard in general and good for pots. And that is some extra cocoa coir that I have here. So I'm just going to throw this in here too. This is a little bit moist, but it's not too bad. It's not soaking wet. There we go. Now this is a really good mix for your pots. It's got nutrients, it's got some stuff to hold water, it's going to be nice and airy, it's not going to get too dried up. This is what you really want for your pots and your gardens. So what we're going to do is mix this up, and then we're going to start making our first pot with it. Actually, they're going to take out this chunk right there that's a little bit too dry. All right, that looks sufficiently mixed. Let's start adding this to our first pot. All right, as you can see, I've got some pots over here. These are pretty large pots. These are for outside, really. And we're just gonna take big shovelfuls and just fill these up. If you get it in your yard, it doesn't matter. All right, so as you can see, these pots, what we're going to do now, shake them down, move them around a little bit, make sure that the soil on top is loose. And remember, these are going to sink down, so we're going to add some more soil to this. You want to have a little left over and have it a little bit further than the top of the container itself. So, because this is really loose. So there we go, these are good. Gonna smooth everything out, maybe take out some of the chunks that are in here. And these are ready for some plants. So I'm actually gonna put in some seeds in here that are ready to go. And we'll see how they come up. All right, we've got some royal carpet seeds here, and this is what I'm gonna add to these because I'm looking to get some flowers in for my front and back area. So I'm just going to add a bunch on top here. I don't know how to plant these really. I'm just going to mix them in. So these three have the seeds in them. I'm just going to move it around, try to bury them just a little bit. there too. All right, so that's it for those seeds. We have one container left back here. And I'm going to put something in it that I've been trying to grow for a while. We'll see if this will work. I actually have some cantaloupe here. And I'm going to put 2 of these in here, and we're going to see if we can get these to grow. Now, I know I'm doing this outside, and it's a little bit chilly out for this time of year, but we're going to try it out. So now, these all have their seeds in them. So the last thing they really need is some water. So I've got my sprayer here, and I'm going to just water them to get them wet on top for now. We're going to water them deep later, but that's the way you want to get these things ready. And this soil is going to compact down in here. We're not going to need to, you know, you're going to need to add more soil later. This isn't going to stay this fluffy for long, especially as it gets more and more water. It's going to get more and more compact. I'm going to show you what happens to a lot of this in just a minute here for one of my older pots. So this is just to prevent things from blowing away. We're going to water it more thoroughly later. I don't have my hose out quite yet, so that's why I'm using the sprayer today. Tomorrow it's supposed to rain, and these are going to be sitting outside where they can get some water. And all of these have drainage holes except for this pot right here, so I'll have to watch this one a little bit more closely. But other than that, they all have drainage on the bottom, so the water will just run right out, which I'm perfectly fine with. So that's how you get a fresh pot ready to go. So now, what happens after a while with these pots, and why do I redo this every year, or every couple years really should be redoing pots? Now, outdoor pots probably more often, indoor pots, so you need to do the same thing. So let me show you what those look like. All right, so this is one of the pots from inside my house. As you can tell, it's very dry. The soil has no nutrient value left really in it, and this needs to be potted again. It needs fresh soil, some fresh nutrients, and that's what we're here to do today. So what I'm going to do here is, this is pretty dry, so I'm just going to take this out just like this. And as you can see here, actually looks like there's some root rot going on in here. Maybe it's not draining well enough. This looks a little bit too wet in the bottom, you know. So what we're going to do is we're going to just sort of dump this out on the ground. Looks like there was a shell on the bottom as well that was holding probably some of the soil in to prevent it from draining out. But what we're going to do is we're going to add in some of the fresh soil, and then we're going to repot this and hopefully get this going again. Because as you can tell, this isn't doing too well. It looks pretty sickly. It is growing leaves, but they all have brown on the end of them, as you can tell. So we're going to repot this in the same pot though. So I'm going to grab this shell. I think this shell was here to just cover up this massive hole inside. So that way soil just can't go right out the bottom, since this is an indoor plant. And I'm going to grab a shovel full of my mix. Not to the top, but just a little bit in the bottom here. I'm going to grab the roots of this. I'm going to clean these off a little bit. I'm going to put that down. Just going to clean these off. Spread them back out a little bit. Get them a little bit of air. Actually, as you can tell, this flakes apart pretty quickly. So, and then we're going to put this in here. And I think what I'm going to do though is I'm going to put a little bit more soil in. I think I'm going to do this by hand though. So, all right, so these roots, by the way, they're all clean now. So that's kind of a problem right now. They're not going to hold a lot of soil, and it's not going to hold this up. It's just going to keep falling to the side. So I'm going to have to make sure I put these underneath. So actually I'm going to have to pour a little bit of this out now, a little bit too much in there. Put this down, and then I got to put soil over top. I'm going to put this down in here again and do the same thing, but with the pot plant in there, in the pot, I'm going to put in this fresh soil. Just like this. I'm just using my hands. I'm going to tap it down in there a little bit, not too much though. You don't want it to be compact. All right, I think that's good. Now we're going to give this some water, and this is ready to go back in my house. What you see me doing now is dethatching the yard and getting it ready for the seed. So I need to take up the thatch, that way the dirt is exposed and the seeds can get down to the soil, because if they're not involved with the soil, they won't germinate, which I have found after numerous attempts with this. So this is a thatching rake I'm using to dig it up and get rid of that thatch on top. I'm going to save it though for later use. And then also I'm doing a small section of the yard. I'd probably use an automated one if I was doing the entire yard, something that's plug-in powered or gas powered. Now that this area is thatched, what I want to do is throw down some grass seed, and then I want to cover it up with the compost and dirt mix that I have, so that way the seeds have something to grow into, and that way it's also a covering to protect it from birds. So let me go put down the grass seed. All right, so I've got the Scott's Wizz seeder here, or a spreader. That's what I'm going to use. I've got some Scott's Sun and Shade grass mix. It's hard to find organic grass seed, so I have to go with this stuff, which is blue in color. You can't see in here. When I pour it in, you'll see. So it is blue in color, which probably has a mix of something on there. And this is a small area that I'm trying to reseed here, so we're just going to keep spreading this at the rate that it says. All right, now that the seed is down, I'm going to just try to rake it in. Not make a mess with the trash. All I'm trying to do right now is move around the leaves and the grass to make sure the seed gets down to the dirt that we just cleaned up from all the roots and thatch. And now it's time for our compost. We're going to spread this around pretty liberally. Actually, I think I'm going to dump it right here. Move this out. And I'll mix it around after it's dumped. Hi. Hey, how are you? All right. Now that we have a decent covering over this with dirt, I'm going to take this thatch that I have at the back here and sort of spread it over this again. This way. And this is going to kind of protect it until the grass can start growing. I know a lot of people like to buy fresh stuff. I'd rather use the stuff from my yard. It's going to break down. It's going to turn brown. It's nice, and this stuff is nutrient rich, really. It's going to break down. It's going to be in the soil, just as it should be. And this way I'm not spending a lot on straw and hay and things like that. So I'm just going to kind of break this apart, spread it around here. Doesn't have to be perfect, just add a little bit of protection here. But that's how I reseed my yard when I do this stuff. Now, this is a small area that I did. Obviously, I probably wouldn't do this by hand if it was my entire yard, quarter acre. This way is kind of hard. I'd recommend renting, or if you want to, you could purchase, and I'll have links down below to some aerators and thatchers that are, I think, well, Thatchers that are motorized and battery or electric powered. And this is what I do. So that's how I use my compost that I get. And I try to use it typically in the spring. It's still the spring right now. It's late April, which is good. Normally I'm way too late in the season, and it's summer by the time I start putting it down, and it just doesn't do much. I'm not going to water it this time. Normally I would set up a hose and I would water this with a sprinkler and make sure it gets a ton of water and really gets everything wet. It is supposed to rain later today and tomorrow, so I'm not too worried about it. It's supposed to rain, I think, for the next 12 to 18 hours. So I'm not too worried. I'm just going to let it sit out there and it'll dry out a little bit, and then it'll hopefully rain. Actually, the rain clouds look like they're already moving in right now. So that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you have any thoughts about what I'm doing here or what I did, please let me know. Or if you have better ways of doing it. I'm not an expert on this necessarily. I'm actually not a green thumb at all. So, you know, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this.